Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first episode of the Citizen Exclusive with Mpungwe Thompson for the year 2026. We figured we'd start off this note by having a conversation with a decorated diplomat in Tanzania. That is none other than Ambassador Ami Mpungwe. So Ami Mpungwe and we've had a discussion before. We centered on his career journey. And in light of the current context, what is happening in Tanzania at the moment, I found it prudent to call him for an interview for us to discuss the political dynamics in Tanzania, but the diplomatic lens of the country. Ambassador, welcome to the Citizen Exclusive.
Thank you very much, Mpungwe.
Indeed. You are celebrated in Tanzania as a decorated diplomat. You were the country's first High Commissioner to South Africa. You took part in the liberation of some of the African countries, the negotiations, Rwanda, post-apartheid South Africa. And right now, Tanzania finds itself in a moment where we need to reflect on, at a diplomatic level, what has happened in the country and also moving forward. Specifically, we're talking about events that happened on October 29 and what unfolded thereafter. The government right now is bent on ensuring that Tanzania continues to remain a respected country when it comes to foreign cooperation. I want you to give us your assessment. What does that look like for the country at the moment? And how would you assess Tanzania's current diplomatic formation, current diplomatic brand?
No, thank you very much, Mpungwe, for this opportunity. I almost declined your invitation because the subject is quite, certainly it's current, but also has got its own sensitivities.
Absolutely.
But indeed, the diplomatic moment at the moment has significantly and profoundly transformed Tanzania in the sense that for many years, for many decades, we had a very positive and happy history of being a country that has been peaceful and stable, compared to many countries in Africa. It has a long history of political stability and peace for many decades since independence. And it was not just by grace of God, but there were specific interventions that were made from day one after independence, especially transforming this country. At independence, it was just a collection of 120 plus tribes into a single nation, deeply integrated across ethnic, tribal, religious, racial. And that's accounted for peace and stability for all these years. And in that sense, we could also, therefore, a lot of intervention within the country geared to establish and accelerate socio-economic development, but also intervene positively in our regional, continental, and international affairs. So unfortunately, the events of 29th of October and thereafter have tarnished that fine record, which gave us that capacity to intervene credibly and actively. So the diplomatic moment at this stage is that situation. We have to deal with that crisis in a manner that is credible and avails us with the opportunity to recover our lost status.
Absolutely. So Tanzania is was among the frontline states during the liberation struggle. We helped many countries in Africa gain their independence, and good enough, you were part of that effort. Now we find ourselves in a situation whereby our reliability, our credibility as far as peace is concerned has been tarnished to a certain extent. What do you think, how does this particular moment that we're living through right now distinguish us from the Tanzania of the days of Mwalimu Nyerere or even Mwinyi? What do you have to say about that?
No, it has moved us backwards quite significantly. And therefore, there's an urgent need now it's a very uncomfortable situation. And therefore, we need to find ways of getting an off-ramp.
Yes.
Get out of this untenable situation. It's terrible for our own internal developments, especially the events were centered around electoral disputes, what transpired before the elections.
Yes.
There were contestations over the electoral laws, the independent electoral commission, some restrictions in the political space and civic space. There were complaints over abductions and the disappearance of people and so on and so forth. So I think this should be the starting point as we look for an off-ramp.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to what extent are we addressing these issues? Because these issues have caused a lot of anger and discontent, and so there has been a build-up of this unattended anger, which erupted during the election. So as a nation, we need to address that in a manner that regains our stability, in a manner that assures us that never again that this kind of thing won't happen again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I listened to President Samia's New Year's address to the nation, and one of the focus areas for the government in 2026 is foreign relations and diplomacy to ensure that Tanzania regains that confidence and trust from the international community. What is the importance, or how far does it go to the government having consistency in foreign policy messaging during a heightened political situation? Because if the focus is to ensure that there's that diplomatic integration, cooperation between Tanzania and the international community, then there needs to be a sync when it comes to foreign policy messaging. How important is that? And is the current government going about it the right way in their foreign policy messaging?
Yeah, whatever the considerations going forward, it should be in a manner that we assure ourselves, as well as the international community, the regional neighbors and the African neighbors and the international community, that we're in control of the situation. That it can't get out of hand or out of control as it happened during the electoral process. But also, we should do it in a manner that we assure ourselves, as well as the international community, that there's a credible off-ramp, that the genuine and specific measures being taken to address the issues that characterize that kind of unattended anger that has permeated our society. And number three, I think rather than contesting perceptions, we have to manage expectations. Both the expectations of our people internal, that there are serious measures being taken to correct the situation, but even the expectations of our regional neighbors and the international community, that we are indeed taking measures to reverse that unfortunate.
And I like that you've talked about contesting international perception. What happened in Tanzania definitely caught the attention of the international community. And right now there is a perception about what Tanzania is like as a country. How can the government shape that narrative, and how important is that perception?
Well, I'm out of service, but certainly there's a lot of diplomatic work which has to be done. And I think in this case, I think we were gravitating towards maybe start, given the magnitude of the challenge, start with a kind of a quiet diplomacy among our neighbors and among our key friends. Having genuine conversations on what exactly happened.
Yeah.
And what measures are we putting in place to make sure that doesn't happen again? And going forward, the corrective measures that would ensure that going forward, the political space will be further opened up, the electoral processes will be better managed through the legal framework and the political management of it. And those kind of reassuring measures we need to put in place.
Absolutely. You've mentioned quiet diplomacy, and we're seeing that the approach that the government took ever since everything that unfolded, from the foreign affairs to the Prime Minister's office, even Vice President, and also the head of state herself. There have been a lot of public statements that have been made alluding to those events.
Yeah.
Is it more pivotal to have a behind-the-scenes dialogue, that quiet diplomacy, or making these public statements? How impactful are they? Do they support the government's endeavor to rebuild the nation?
They'll be quite impactful, but you have to manage the narrative. We should not leave it to chance or everybody coming with his or her own innovation.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, we have to manage expectations, in terms of diplomacy, the quiet diplomacy, you have to deploy envoys, key areas, starting with our neighborhood, people who have some influence, who, precisely because it's quiet diplomacy, it's not out for public pronouncement and all these things. There are certain sessions that are very quiet, very private, that things can be discussed very openly, very candidly, and therefore reassure our partners. And I keep on repeating, starting with our immediate neighbors, then our regional bodies like the East African Community, the SADC, the AU, and this is the base that can help you to deal with the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
But there are a lot of aspects that can make quiet diplomacy very effective.
Very effective.
Yes.
Okay.
These public diplomacy pronouncements may not help us at this stage.
And it's up to interpretation. At times it can get misinterpreted, misconstrued. Now let's talk about some of the lessons that Tanzania can draw from countries that have gone through similar or something that's a bit akin to such disruptions that we saw in our country, but managed now to regain that confidence of its citizens, but also the international community. What are some of the lessons that we can draw from this?
Certainly the fortunate thing about this that there are some lessons. You cannot throw your hands in the air and give up. Within the neighborhood, we have seen our neighbors, Kenyans, the way they resolved some few years back the electoral disputes by some serious and genuine constitutional reforms, some legal frameworks that govern the conduct of elections. We have seen similar thing that happened in Ghana, for instance. Again, they took serious measures to change the electoral laws, the electoral processes that opened up to genuinely free and fair elections. Similar things. The case of Rwanda here. A country that went through civil war, through genocide, but they've come up with a process that assures stability and predictability. So there are many cases within Africa. We can go to Vietnam. We can go to other places in the world where similar situations happened, but they were able to come out of it successful.
One of the most, I would say, widely popular, a statement that was made popular in recent times was the "Who are you?" question. And people, I guess, some of them misinterpreted that question, but I want to look at it from a context whereby the head of state was questioning the Western influence in a sovereign country, which is a valid concern. You know, we've been independent for over 60 years, so we can handle our own affairs.
Yeah.
But what is your view about Western influence in current times? Do you feel that they overreach their welcome? Do they overextend their hand into internal affairs of Tanzania?
No, it's not just in recent times. History has indicated that there have always been interference into African issues and African nations from the imperial powers, and we thought for years that maybe that could change, but looks like the world has remained the same, and I think. Being aware of it, it's important that we understand that, but also take measures to, if not eliminate, minimize. We sometimes, and in many occasions, we give credence or some excuses to those kind of interferences because of our dependence.
True.
On aid and all these things.
Yes, absolutely.
So, but if you can move out from that frame of relationship, and come to a point that someone does not feel he or she has a legitimate right to issue instructions, I think that will be better. And this speaks to the paradox that Africa generally and Tanzania in particular, that so rich yet so poor.
Yes, so poor. Absolutely.
So if we have everything that can turn us into a different set of relationship with this developed world, but we are giving that opportunity a miss, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because we do have a leadership, not just in Tanzania, in Africa, that recognizes that we do have a plethora of resources, but yet we're still dependent on countries that are less fortunate than us when it comes to natural resources. So that now breeds that independence theory, which until today, we're still dependent on the Western powers. Most countries, when they look at what happened in Tanzania, especially for the development partners, they often tie governance reforms to diplomatic credibility. Now, in the current environment, how important is our governance reforms to ensure that we are credible in front of the international diplomatic world?
I think it's unfortunate that we are reaching a stage that we have to reform because of external pressure. I think, going back, our entire fight for independence for African countries was precisely for having a new system, a post-colonial system that is driven by democracy, by human rights, adherence to human rights, by rule of law, good governance, and have regular, free and fair elections. And that drove the entire independence and liberation struggle. But it's unfortunate that sometimes we forget why we fought for our independence, and we lapse into systems that don't provide sufficient space for those kind of democratic and human rights. And therefore, we tend to invite this kind of conditionalities for aid and so getting an off-ramp that would make us correct what had happened, or what caused to happen on the 29th of October and thereafter, I think will place us in a very strong position to deal with those kind of pressure.
Now, in addressing the situation, the president has often talked about dialogue, inclusion, and strengthening of institutions as some of the pillars in how Tanzania can rebuild. How important or how significant are these signals in providing confidence from Tanzanians, but also the international community?
Yeah, they are quite important because Yeah, if you deal with perceptions, you'll be jumping from one corner to the other. I think the most important thing is to take serious measures that provide meaningful off-ramp. I keep on, because we're on the wrong road now.
Yeah.
We have to get an off-ramp that will get us back to where we have been going. And as I hinted, and I keep on repeating, this should not be a matter of donor compliance or appeasement. It has to be inherently our own desire. And after all, and I keep on repeating, the overall struggle for independence and struggle that we supported of liberation were precisely to have a democratic system that work, that free and fair elections, there's no cheating or, as the father of the nation, some of the clips I've seen recently, no janja. We become genuine in pursuit of these ideals, and that's the most important assurance for us to look forward to a process.
Indeed. So when people look at history, of course, Tanzania stands up quite prominently in the role that we played, I mentioned, among the frontline states. But even at a regional level, we still have a pivotal standing in East Africa and the Great Lakes region. How can we leverage that standing to ensure that we, again, align into the positive lane and rebuild as a nation, so for us to remain as important as we are in East Africa, the Great Lakes, but the entire continent?
Yeah, indeed. For many years since independence, Tanzania has always been providing a leadership role in East Africa and Southern Africa, on the continent.
Yeah.
Whatever we had position that we had taken here in Tanzania became the frontline states position, became those days OU position, became non-aligned position, and through non-aligned we could influence the UN General Assembly and all these things. But unfortunately, for some few years, I cannot assign everything to the events of 29th of October. I think from the previous administration, 2015, I think we started withdrawing from our traditional leadership role in the region and on the continent. And that withdrawal, President Samia tried to recover that.
But one would argue that it was more of the government under President Magufuli focusing on national priorities than international affairs.
Even the previous presidents also were giving priority to national issues.
Okay.
But they were striking a good balance.
Okay.
But I think President Magufuli almost completely ignored our traditional role, leadership role in the region. You know, Tanzania had withdrawn significantly. So I think President Samia Suluhu has brought us back to the regional and continental settings and international settings. And we are moving very well, except for what happened.
And we have seen some countries, they are now reviewing their relation with cooperation with Tanzania. So it has had quite an impact.
Quite an impact. So we have to get an off-ramp. We have to get out of this.
Do you feel that Tanzania will regain that credibility, not just from the Western countries, but particularly in Africa? Are we going to regain that credibility as a nation that bridges divide in other parts of the continent in light of what happened in our own soil?
Fortunately, unlike many other countries that I know on the continent, in the neighborhood, I've dealt with some of them. We have a very strong base to pick up and move forward again. As I said, this is a country which has a long history of absolute peace and stability. I think that element still characterizes Tanzania. So the foundation is still very strong. Yeah. So we can still end up. I'm quite positive we can get out of this, provided we look for genuine. We diagnose the disease correctly and prescribe appropriate solutions for that. And in this case, I think maybe there's a lot of hope now. The president has established this commission of inquiry.
Yes.
Yeah, there are some people who are pessimistic about it and the way it has been constituted and the terms of reference. But I'm always a long-term optimist. I hope they'll still come up with some report that may show us the off-ramp that we need. Right now we're stuck in traffic.
Yeah, indeed we are.
We need to get an off-ramp.
Yeah.
And I personally, I put a lot of hope in this commission that to make get us out of it.
Okay, yeah, indeed. And the commission is comprised of individuals who are highly respected. So the entire nation is looking forward to that report, and then we can now reflect on what happened. As we mentioned, you're a career diplomat. You served in public service, but also the private sector. What advice would you have for the next generation of diplomats in Tanzania on some of the principles that they need to understand, they need to have in order to navigate the complex global environment? Because every day new events happen. So what are those principles for the next generation of diplomats?
I feel sorry for them. I feel sorry for them because the world has changed significantly from the world that I knew. And especially in the last 30, 40 years since the collapse of the Berlin Wall. Some of us operated in the world that was structured very simply. It was Western world and Eastern world, communist world and capitalist world. So it was very simple. But the collapse of the Berlin Wall in 1988, 89?
89, thereabout, yeah.
Yeah, and significant developments in science and technology, especially information and communication technology, has transformed the world that some of us were operating in so profoundly. There are so many forces which have come in. As a result of collapse of Eastern communist and Western world, now we have universal values of democracy. It's no longer Western values or Eastern values. Universal values of democracy, of human rights. They're universal. There's no Eastern values and values of democracy, of rule of law, of good governance, and all these things. There's another significant development on the economic front. There have been coordination and integration of global economies based on economies of scale and economies of scope. There have also been return and concern for environment, for sustainable development. Issues of environmental preservation, climate change. Now they've come into play. During our time, those issues, they were there, but not so prominently as they are now. There have been a world where also, save for what Trump was doing on tariff, but generally, the national boundaries have transformed into markets. The world was moving, and still moves in spite of the Trump, into integration of markets. WTO has been trying to push that agenda and all these things. They've also, as I said, there've been digitalization process, information and communication technology. You are located there. So time, space, distance are no longer issues in terms of competition. And the dynamic interplay between these forces forces of globalization, forces of democracy, human rights, rule of law, collapse of national boundaries, issues of environmental sensitivities and all that. The dynamic interplay of all these forces have created a new world that is characterized by extreme unpredictabilities, extreme instabilities, and so many other things. And as if it's not enough, recently now, I think the process began in 2000 with the discovery of human genome now and the digital space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we have the fourth industrial revolution.
Yes.
Yeah, that is moving so fast.
Yeah, very disruptive.
Yeah, very disruptive. Disruptive technologies have come in.
Yeah.
And therefore anything that is data is a candidate for disruption.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. In fact, for countries like ours, which are very rich in resources,
Yes, it is an opportunity. Yeah.
it's an opportunity to deal with unsustainable poverty levels because anything that has data is candidate for exponential growth. Now, for us to address these developmental issues, it gives us space. But in addition to that, and that's why I'm feeling sorry for these young diplomats. We have geopolitics pushing the world in different directions. Currently, I'm also reading a book on astropolitics. These big powers, the US, China, Russia, and India, are already getting pieces in the space, and the private sector has also gone in.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you link with all this development in data and some of these data centers, I'm hearing stories that because of energy crisis, there's a possibility of locating data centers up there because there's a lot of energy, there's cooling capacities.
Yeah.
So all these are coming into play in managing relations.
Indeed,
And therefore that's why I'm really sympathetic with the young diplomats because they have a lot to deal with.
Yeah, indeed they do. Indeed they do.
Yeah.
You've spoken about the geopolitics, but also capitalism versus socialism, and for many years, we lived under a unipolar system where the US was the overriding power. And then came in China. We're seeing there is now multilateralism is something that the world is seeing at the moment. And when Trump came into office during his first term, but then now more pronounced in his second term, we are seeing the US trying to reclaim that role as the global police, much to the detriment of other countries such as Venezuela, Iran, and what have you. And now China, on the other hand, is also trying to ensure that its role as a superpower is also maintained. For developing countries such as Tanzania, we kind of find ourselves at a crossroad. Where do we have now to serve the interests of the US? Do we have to serve the interests of China? When the US says that it's defunding some of the international support projects and Tanzania is impacted, some people will tell you that, but we have China. So what is your view about this Western-Eastern interplay when it comes to Tanzanian affairs? And we recently had the foreign minister from China, Wang Li, visit Tanzania, meeting with the president. So that is sort of a show of relations. Should we align with China? Should we align with the US? Or should we remain neutral?
I think we should align with ourselves.
Okay, that's interesting.
I think we should align with ourselves because, as said earlier on, there's a paradox here. We are so rich yet so poor.
So poor.
And to get out of this it's not magical. You know, China was a poor country not too long ago. You have countries in Asia which at independence in 1961, 1960s, we were at the same level. But they are out of
Korea
it.
and the Vietnam.
Singapore and all this. So for me, I may be condemned, but I think it's a good thing to remind us that we don't have an anchor in this world. We have to depend on ourselves.
True.
And we have everything that can make us dependent on ourselves. So, yes, the big power, the multilateralism is being challenged. It's time for us now to look internally.
Indeed.
And create an environment where we've got everything. Tanzania, I mean, I hate this citing of what we have, but indeed we have peace still, in spite of whatever happened. We're still a peaceful and stable country. I'm sure we are going to get out of it, and we should get out of it. But we'll look at history, geography, coastal states, surrounded by all these landlocked states, and the blue economy assets that we have from the ocean and the lakes. Below the ocean and everywhere, there's the geology of this country is so exciting. we have everything.
Yeah, but Ambassador, the investors are these Western companies. And when you have a president, for example, during Magufuli's time, when we had a review of the laws to ensure that Tanzania now benefits to a great extent from its natural resources, and we had to review some of the contracts. We saw claims of misappropriation. We saw claims from international companies, which led to cases being filed at international courts and the government paying billions in shillings. So at the end of the day, we do have the natural wealth. The investors are from abroad. When we try to claim at least a certain percentage that we feel is owed to us, we are taken to court. How can we navigate such an environment?
It's not... It's not so complex. Because, again, I always come back to self. Some of the reasons why we've been taken to court is because we have negotiated bad deals. Yeah, and in most cases, most of these deals that have turned sour, it's because they were badly negotiated. Yeah, so I think the challenge is still ours to position ourselves in a manner that we can stand on our own and be able to negotiate good deals. And even with this, what happened, my experience, investors sometimes are not so much worried about bad news. They're worried about stability, predictability, and all these things. Bad news, yes. The 29th of October, bad news. But still, nobody has moved out of Tanzania.
True.
I think what they need more is assurance that there's stability, there's predictability. So the investor environment has to be. And for us, it's not a choice, because sometimes some patriotic Tanzanians, mabeberu, but it's a fact. We are a very rich country in terms of resources. But we don't have enough internal capacity in terms of capital. Yeah, our debt, our savings to GDP ratio is still 15%.
Yeah,
and the economists say you need minimum of 30%.
Indeed.
So our internal savings are not sufficient to exploit what we have, and this is a very rich country. So having FDI is an imperative for us. It's not a choice.
It is an imperative.
Yeah, it is an imperative. You need technology. Yeah, you cannot go down 2 kilometers to get resources there on this traditional technology of small-scale miners. You need technology that can help us to exploit those resources. You need high-level skills.
Absolutely.
And all these three factors I've mentioned are highly mobile. They're readily available across the world, but highly mobile. They move where there's assurance, there's stability, there's predictability, there's opportunity to grow. So these things like October 29th may shake a bit, but as I said, investors look for stability, not bad news. And you see investors are in DRC. There's bad news every day.
There's bad news every day. But then also people question now, who gets to benefit more? Is it the investors or is it the people of DRC? So it's a conversation.
But then how do you blame the investors? Blame the people of DRC.
Yes. You blame the leadership as well.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, whenever there are Eddie Beggar projects in Tanzania, we saw what happened during the DP World saga, and now the Tazara situation where China is investing $2 billion, giving them 30 years, I believe, to operate, and then give back to the government of Tanzania to manage. And then people question, do we lack the local capacity to run some of these infrastructure projects? For example, Tazara, it has been there for many decades, and now it's in a dilapidated state, requiring a country like China to come and sort of save it from ruins, and then they're taking 30 years to run it before giving it back to us. It's a revolving cycle, over 60 years of independence, and we are still seeing such type of deals.
I think you got the answer. The Chinese built Tazara, they handed it over to us, and we mismanaged. Yeah. So I think I go back to the same point. We have to look into ourselves. You know, we should be able to do these things ourselves. But more importantly, you mentioned all these projects and investors, and I've seen Tanzanians are very quick. Oh, investors, Babeberu, and these people. But as a country today, yes, indeed, we have some policies for attracting FDI into Tanzania and capital and all these things. But we don't have a policy that involves Tanzanians to be part of the economic transformation. We don't have. We don't have. We have condemned Tanzanians to be passive spectators. And as like you spectate football, it's very easy to blame and criticize.
Yeah, we don't actively participate.
Yeah, because you're not involved in the game. So I think the biggest handicap here is for us to develop a policy that make majority Tanzanians part of the economic transformation process of the economy.
Indeed.
And beginning by, deliberate measures of building middle class, because it is the middle class that is the engine of growth. These are the people who can invest, can do modern businesses, can compete against foreigners and all these things. So I still come back that the onus is on ourselves. Yeah, okay. Foreigners may behave badly here and there, but if we ourselves are well positioned to take control of our development process, then there's little chance that the foreigners would sway us around.
Indeed. Now, in closing, Ambassador, what gives you the confidence about Tanzania's ability to rebuild momentum in light of what happened?
Yeah, the foundation for peace and stability here are very strong. Okay. Fortunately, I've not read it. I've not listened this from my grandfather's story. At independence, I was 10 in 1961. I have seen this country, as I said earlier on, that at independence, when I was 10, it was just a collection of tribes. I've seen it transforming into a strong nation, and I was part of that generation that we grew up as Tanzanians. Yeah, I forgot about the Fakara and my cousins. I grew up as a Tanzanian. So there is a strong foundation for peace and stability here, for resilience, even when we go through this kind of tests. But important thing for us is to be true and genuine to ourselves. Look for an off-ramp in a manner that is frank and sincere, and tackle our challenges in a very honest way. And because I think we've learned that if you try to outmaneuver and trying to be smart by half, the consequences are dire.
Indeed, yeah.
So I think you need to be genuine, transparent, open, and to building a Tanzania that is truly underpinned by working democracy, a strong foundation of human rights, electoral processes that are genuinely free and fair. And all sorts kind of measures that would make us peak from where we've fallen.
Okay.
But we have a very strong foundation. I'm still optimistic that we will get over it.
Well, Ambassador, we'll end on that note. Thank you.
Asante sana.
You were with me, Mpoki Thompson, for the Citizen Exclusive. We were with Ambassador Ami Mpungwe, a career diplomat and a public service and private sector leader. It was the Citizen Exclusive. Until next time, adios.